Two election supervisors take action tonight after an NBC2 investigation uncovers flawed record-keeping and human error, allowing people who are not citizens of the United States to vote.
NBC2 investigator Andy Perrotti has been working on this story now for more than 2 months.
He joins us live from the Lee County Election Center. Andy?
Well, Lindsay, we don't know how widespread this problem is because elections offices don't keep track of where non-citizens live. So we decided to do something that they never tried to do before, and we found them on our own. Have you voted before?
Right. I vote every year.
Hanako Danette is not a U.S. citizen, yet the Cape Coral resident is registered to vote. Do you know that you're not supposed to vote if you're not a U.S. citizen? NBC2 found Danette after reviewing her jury excusal form. She told the clerk of court she couldn't serve because she wasn't a U.S. citizen. But we found her name and nearly 100 others like her in the database of Florida registered voters. You have no idea why you're registered to vote?
I have no idea. I mean, how am I supposed to know? Go driver's license facilities or anything, I don't know.
This Naples woman didn't want to show her face. While she doesn't know how she was registered, she does know how to vote. Records show she voted 6 times in elections dating back 11 years.
I know you cannot vote before you become a citizen, so I never tried to do anything like that.
Samuel Lincoln is not a U.S. citizen either. The Jamaican national says he doesn't know how he ended up registered to vote. So this is all a big mistake.
So that's their mistake, that's not mine.
But we obtained a copy of his 2007 voter registration application. It's clearly marked U.S. citizen.
And that is under oath. That document, they're attesting that it is in fact true, and by falsifying it, it's a third-degree felony.
County supervisors of elections tell me they have no way to verify citizenship. Under the 1992 motor voter law, they're not required to ask for proof.
We have no policing authority. We don't have any way of bouncing that information off of any other database that would give us that information.
Does that need to change?
I think it needs to be looked at.
Until that happens, the only way supervisors of elections can investigate voter fraud is if they get a tip.
It looks like these individuals lied on your documents.
So that's what our list became. After showing them nearly 100 names we compiled, both elections offices sent letters to each voter asking them to verify citizenship.
It could be very serious. It could change the whole complexion of an election.
They have 30 days to respond to those letters to verify their citizenship. If they don't, they'll be taken off the voter rolls. Back to you.
Andy, quick question for you. We know in Florida all too well that it can only take one vote and that can make a difference. But are the supervisors changing their policies to make sure that the people who are not allowed to vote, that they don't vote?
Based on our investigation, both elections offices plan to request jury excusal forms from clerk of courts every single time they get one that says not U.S. citizen. They'll basically do what we did. They'll take those names and they'll compare those names with people registered to vote in Florida. Live in Fort Myers, Andy Perrotti, NBC2.
How you doing, ma'am? Are you a Charlotte County registered voter? Print your name starting at the top.
Under Old Glory.
And your street address too, please.
A lesson in democracy.
Zip code and today's date.
The privilege to vote.
Sarasota County. Sarasota County.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Only given to United States citizens.
That's all it takes.
At least that's what's meant to happen.
Hey, thank you. Take care.
No problem.
Have a great day.
An NBC2 investigation has uncovered more than 1,200 potential non-U.S. citizens on Florida's voter roll, some actually casting ballots in elections.
So we've got a terrible mess.
Beth Colvin is an organizer with the Sarasota Patriots.
We have had all 3 candidates for the Senate.
A conservative group concerned with voter fraud.
I just find it a tragedy. Our votes are absolutely diluted.
The Division of Elections discovered the names after the Department of Motor Vehicles identified non-citizens who obtained driver's licenses. It then matched those names with people registered to vote in Florida.
We mailed them the letter. They have 30 days in which to respond.
Election supervisors like Collier County's Jennifer Edwards must now remove them from the voter roll or verify citizenship.
The difference between Bush and Gore in 2000 was, in Florida, was 537 votes.
And we're talking about over 1,200.
Right. So it's very important.
In February, the NBC2 investigators first exposed non-citizens registered to vote while reviewing jury excusal information in Lee and Collier counties.
I know you cannot vote before you become a citizen, so I never tried to do anything like that.
The state expanded our methodology, finding 12 times the number of non-citizens statewide that shouldn't be registered.
Accuracy and confidence in our polling and our voting lists are very, very important.
Newly appointed Secretary of State Ken Detzner says the findings show his office is proactively identifying ways to remove non-citizens from the voter roll. By November, you're going to be confident that the voter rolls are accurate.
I'm very confident they'll be accurate, and in November I am, yes.
How you doing, sir? You a Charlotte County registered voter.
Accuracy, so the integrity of each vote.
Thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Counts.
Democracy at its best.
Hundreds more potentially ineligible voters uncovered in Florida.
This is an update to an exclusive NBC2 investigation we first broke on Monday. Election supervisors are investigating the citizenship of more than 1,200 non-citizens on the voter roll.
NBC2 investigator Andy Perrotti live in our newsroom with this breaking new information. Andy.
Well, and Kelly, updated numbers from the Secretary of State show the number of non-citizens registered is at more than 2,000, and that's just in 3 South Florida counties.
We're talking about thousands of possible non-citizen voters.
TV stations and newspapers across Florida now reporting our statewide investigation. The Division of Elections scrambling to strike non-citizens off Florida's voter rolls.
I vote every year.
Originally, 1,200 were discovered statewide. Now we've learned it's more than doubled. Miami-Dade County is saying the state identified nearly 2,000 potential non-citizens registered in that county alone. By November, you're going to be confident that the voter rolls are accurate.
I'm very confident they'll be accurate, and in November I am, yes.
The Division of Elections discovered the names after the Department of Motor Vehicles identified non-citizens who obtained driver's licenses. It then matched those names with people registered to vote in Florida, a methodology the NBC2 investigators first used in February to uncover non-citizens registered and voting in Lee and Collier counties.
Yeah, the Department of State is constantly looking at and exploring new avenues to run our database through to see if there's any issues relating to eligibility.
We begin with a statewide investigation that's likely to impact Florida's primary and general elections.
An NBC2 investigation into voter fraud uncovers as many as 180,000 ineligible voters. Reporter Andy Perrotti broke the story earlier this week, and Andy, I have to admit, I thought that 180,000 was a mistake because earlier this week you had it more like about 1,000.
Yeah, it started out at 1,200. Now it's in the tens of thousands. What's worse, we've learned that the state knew about these potential non-U.S. citizens more than a year ago. 180,000 potential non-U.S. citizens registered to vote.
We're talking about thousands of possible non-citizen voters.
A number that's drastically increased since our story first aired on Monday. Over the phone, Secretary of State Communications Director Chris Cate explains. How did it jump from 1,200 to 2,600 and now to 180,000?
The number 180,000 was a starting point. This is a number that we captured when we've been working with Highway Safety, their database, and our database. Well, we came to this number of 180,000 as the matching process.
The Division of Elections discovered the names after the Department of Motor Vehicles identified non-citizens who obtained driver's licenses. It then matched those names with people registered to vote in Florida.
I was surprised at the number.
We've also learned the state first started finding potential non-U.S. citizens in early 2011, but waited more than a year to start contacting supervisors of elections.
Why haven't they been feeding that information to us earlier? And even if they weren't able to vet it at their level, we could have still worked with some of the names locally.
Supervisors of elections are responsible for removing ineligible voters from the rolls, but that may not happen in time for Florida's August primary, since the state may not be finished going through its list.
We're vetting them as promptly as we can, while maintaining a thorough process, because we want to err on the side of voters, and we want to make sure no one's being removed from the voter rolls that shouldn't be.
In February, the NBC2 investigators first exposed non-citizens voting.
I vote every year.
after we reviewed jury excusal forms in Lee and Collier counties. Collier County Supervisor of Elections Jennifer Edwards suspects that investigation forced the state to act.
I do believe that your action that you took using the juror notice cards and then comparing that information to the state registration roll, that you did. You got their attention.
A problem with Florida's voter probe.
At 2,000. Thousands of non-citizen voters.
The U.S. Justice Department says the state's current voter purge of potential non-U.S. citizens is illegal so close to the August primary.
They've given us until next week to respond, but we believe throughout this process we've been doing the right thing, and the right thing is to remove ineligible voters from the voter rolls.
If people are being removed from the rolls on the basis of this inaccurate information, that is wrong and probably illegal.
The American Civil Liberties Union says the state is comparing outdated motor vehicle information to the voter rolls, potentially removing U.S. citizens from the list. An NBC2 analysis of 2,600 under investigation show more than half are Hispanic.
The state might as well just be more honest about it and basically remove everybody with an Hispanic-sounding last name from the voter rolls.
The most important thing is for you as a citizen, as a voter.
2 weeks ago, the governor told us that's not the case. So far, the state doesn't plan to stop its voter purge.
I think what your expectation is that your government makes sure that it does everything it can to have fair elections.
The statewide voter purge comes after the NBC2 investigators first exposed non-citizens registered to vote in February. You have no idea why you're registered to vote, while comparing jury excusal information in Lee and Collier counties. The state contends its actions are legal.
It's the right thing to prevent people who shouldn't be voting, to keep them from voting.
Well, a showdown between our state and the feds, all triggered by an NBC2 investigation into voter fraud.
Florida and the U.S. Justice Department are suing each other now over the state's effort to remove thousands of potential non-citizens from voter rolls. NBC2 investigator Andy Perrotti is in the newsroom with the details on this one. And Andy, it just keeps going back and forth, back and forth.
It keeps going. Florida Governor Rick Scott says this could all be fixed if Homeland Security gave them access to a federal citizenship verification system, but even the U.S. Attorney General says that system is likely flawed.
Major new developments in the fight over potential voter fraud in the key battleground swing state of Florida.
An issue over voter integrity, with Florida at the center of a national debate.
When it comes to messed up voter purges and messed up elections, Florida is something of
leading the way.
You know.
All initiated by an NBC2 investigation.
It all began last year when a television station in Florida decided to go look at people who'd been sent jury duty notices, and they'd come back and said, no, we can't serve.
The U.S. Justice Department announcing it plans to sue Florida for its efforts to purge thousands of potential non-citizens registered to vote. The federal government claims the purge is illegal because it's too close to the August primary, and information the state is using to purge voters is flawed. Democrats accuse Governor Rick Scott of leading the voter purge for political reasons.
All they want to do is send a message out that to dissuade and discourage voter participation, because they understand that if we have maximum turnout, it's unlikely their candidate wins.
Florida now plans to sue the Department of Homeland Security for blocking access to a federal citizenship verification system.
I've spoken to many people, and every time I speak to them, they tell me, please do not let my vote be neutralized by a non-citizen voting.
U.S. Attorney Eric Holder says even that federal system isn't foolproof.
That database, as I understand, which is a DHS database, does not contain on its rolls or within that database people who are born in the United States.
Have you voted before?
Right.
In February, the NBC2 investigators first exposed non-citizens registered to vote in Lee and Collier counties. After reviewing jury excusal information, the state is now looking into 180,000 voters that could end up casting ballots in the next election.
They can't. I mean, that's not right. My job is to enforce the law of the land. So the Secretary of State's office did their job.
Here's why this story is so important. Only 537 Florida voters separated Bush and Gore in the 2000 presidential election. The state wants election supervisors to investigate and possibly remove 2,600 non-citizens from the rolls so far. Each person who gets flagged by the state has up to 30 days to verify their citizenship. Count on us to keep following this story. Live in the newsroom, Perrotti, NBC2.